Evening, good night. I'm Ellie Noam. Welcome from New York City. It is here 11 o'clock in the morning. We welcome all of you for the joint seminar of the International Media Management Academic Association, IMMA, and of the Columbia Institute for Teleinformation, CITI, at Columbia University. So we have a really interesting discussion here today. It is about China. And we welcome Jose, Miguel, and Jose Carlos. Welcome, Jose. Welcome, Jose. You will be properly introduced by Paulo Faustino, who has organized this session. Thank you very much, Paulo, who speaks to us from, I believe, from Portugal, right? But the topic today is China. We, of course, know China is the second largest economy in the world. It has been the largest population, now the second largest population in the world. And in the tech world, probably the second most important country. And now with in AI too, just last week, DeepSeek really kind of challenged the Silicon Valley type dominance in AI considerably. But China has not been worldwide a superpower when it came to media. It has projected economic power. It has projected, but less that soft power of media. But that is changing. China gets involved in media in other countries around the world. Obviously, TikTok, classic, the most important example, perhaps. But also China is an important market for companies around the world to have a role in China. And so for a whole range of reasons, we are really interested in the Chinese media industry. But China, of course, is a very complex environment. It consists of the mainland, but then there is Hong Kong and Macau and this special economic zone that have somewhat different status. We'll hear about this from our two speakers. And the other thing about China, of course, is that it is hard to compare it in an apples to apples type comparison to media in the rest of the world. We did at Columbia about 10 years ago, had a big international comparison of media ownership and concentration. There is now a follow-up study that is led by Dwayne Winsek at Carleton University in Canada. Also, and that includes, of course, a chapter or so on China in comparison. And I remember when we did the chapter on China, the author came up with numbers that showed that China had the most diverse and the most deconcentrated and the most competitive media industries in the entire world by a wide margin. And that kind of clearly raised a lot of eyebrows when we saw the manuscript. And the answer is that the author and other authors similarly would consider all these kind of different media organizations quite separately. So in the newspaper industry, for example, there was one media organization that was owned by the Communist Party. And then there was a newspaper organization having multiple newspapers that was owned by the government, the state. And then there was a set of newspapers owned by the trade unions. And then there was a set of newspapers owned by the Youth League of China. And then there was newspapers owned by provincial governments. And if you consider all of them separate organizations, then you have a very fragmented market. If you consider them to be basically under some common unified control, then it is the most concentrated market in the world. And so it's a question of interpretation of independence. Chinese scholars then sometimes will say, well, there are different organizations that compete with each other. But at the same, you can say in some ways the same thing about Rupert Murdoch's empire. There are newspapers here and there are newspapers there. There are TV stations and TV networks and cable networks, and they're all run by different people. Would we therefore say this is a highly concentrated type activity, or is it that Rupert Murdoch has all this power, or in the Chinese equivalent, that the Communist Party ultimately, through various organizational structures, controls everything, because after all, it can determine who runs these organizations, who leads them, and what their basic perspective should be. So these are important questions, important because they, in a way, create these different models that we have in front of us. The more Western model of kind of competitive and independent from the state, and the model in China where there's a direct state ownership and control, and then there's the somewhat more indirect control over private companies. I was just 2 months ago in China for several days, in Shanghai, gave lectures, talked to people, studied the matter, and I found it really interesting, not only in terms of development, economic development, but also that there was a greater sense of independence in media from those people that I talked to than I had experienced in earlier visits. But that was kind of not a particular scientific study. It was just impressions from some conversations. For a better understanding, we now have a kind of great lineup. Not only do we have the two speakers, but Paulo Faustino himself will also say, who also was in China repeatedly for longer periods, will also speak about that. So Paulo, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ali. In fact, we have three speakers. I did, as I mentioned, I did the last minute invitation for to a colleague from mainland. She is a board member of the company. She's an entrepreneur and she has a PhD and she knows very well she has a very good perspective of the transformation about China. So we can start this discussion with the first intervention from José Carlos Matias. José Carlos Matias is a director of Macau Magazine, a business magazine. After can be José Encarnação, that is president of the Press Association of Portuguese Press and English Association in Macau, and after Amélie, that is board member of a company in China, and she has a PhD in media studies. So I think we don't need to do introduction. You did a very good introduction about China. So I think we can start, and I can give the words to José Carlos Matias. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My great pleasure joining this panel. Special thanks to Paulo. Warmest regards to Ali, Jason, José Miguel, Amélie.
Okay, it looks like he's frozen.
I believe that's correct.
If he doesn't unfreeze, then we perhaps should move to the next speaker, but let's give it another 20 seconds.
Yes, I think José Miguel, maybe you can start. Meanwhile, José Carlos Matias will appear.
Let's make sure that José Carlos knows that he's frozen, because he might be continue to speak.
I have let him know, Ellie.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Hello?
Okay.
So first of all, I want to thanks to everyone. It's an honor and it's a pleasure to talk with such expertise people about this sector of communication and media. And I would like to start to say that Ellie did a very gave us a good frame and did a very brief but very assertive analysis about what's going on here in China. And sometimes when we are invited to talk about these issues, it's not easy to know where to start. Anyway, I will pick some ideas from Ellie And he said, he mentioned the control of media in China, but actually that's true. That's true, but it's also true that you have a really diversification of media in China. I want to note that, for example, today you have CCTV. CCTV is the state-controlled, and they broadcast all over the world, and it's very funny, and
I can't hear a sound here.
It's cutting in and out.
And I don't hear Jose Carlos either. So possibly
Yeah.
would be a solution for them to just speak without the video.
So I guess, am I back? I'm back now, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we hear and see you, Jose.
Sorry, I think my connection here is really not so stable. I hope now it's good. My apologies. Jose, you were taking the lead
No,
after
I was saying the CCTV. What they did is they create several channels, and each channel is very specific. And for example, we have the CCTV news. They actually now they renamed as CGTN. CGTN is amazing. Is an channel they just brought 24 hours news. They are very focused on China and all this region, but also on Southeast Asia. But they do not forget to broadcast also news related to the West. But for example, this CGTN, they also, and this is very nice, because they also create a channel, is CGTN documentary. And I'm a big fan of this channel, because this channel, they broadcast 24 hours documentaries about China, and it's very nice to see how this is soft politics. This is soft politics, because in one hand they have CGTN news, where they broadcast all that news with sometimes hardcore content. But then they have this CGTN documentary. It's a very soft way to transmit the culture and the how the society in China now is doing, a part of politics. And I also want to mention, for example, China Daily, where you have is published in English. And I already have been with José Carlos Matias in China Daily at least twice, and we talk with some English speaking journalists, and they told us they feel free to write about several issues. And of course, you can tell me, okay, but they are all these media are controlled by the Chinese state. Yes, that's true, but you also have some private companies that they work with a very high level of autonomy, but they also try to maintain their standards and their contents in more or less likely these control state media. So if you analyze in China, you don't have a huge difference between the contents that are broadcasted or published by the state-controlled media and private media. Here in Macau, we also have a situation that it's not very normal, but you can find also in small countries, Malta or San Marino, where the newspapers and also the TV and radio, they are highly subsidized by the government. And my experience says that you cannot find lots of situations where you have pressure from the government or from the state or from the authorities. Of course, we know where we are, and we try to transmit even that more sensitive issues. We try to transmit in a way that people understand what we want to achieve, but in a very diplomatic way. Just to finish, I would like to show you something.
Okay, now, sorry to
Okay.
interrupt you. Now, I suggest that Carlos Matias give us his perspective. José Carlos, please.
Hi. Oh, yes. I believe that I'm now fully on. So let me try to share something with you. I will try to. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah, we are seeing
Okay.
it.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Greetings, José. Thank you, José Miguel, for what you said, which is also serves as a bit of an introduction in a way to my approach. Well, basically, when we're talking about media in Macau, we have to go back to 1822. This is the first newspaper that was published in Macau, and it can be considered the first newspaper of the kind in that part of the world. Though, of course, back then in the early 19th century or in the 1820s, it was really a way different world. But this was in Portuguese. The name is Abelha da China, which means China's bee, because it was actually a pretty sharp newspaper, and it inaugurated a kind of tradition of controversial media or news media in Macau, or newspapers that has been going on over the centuries, especially these 2 centuries, especially namely in certain periods of our history under Portuguese administration and partially after 1999. So as you know, Macau was handed over to China after over 400 years of Portuguese ruling on the 20th of December 1999. And this is where we are. In the post-1999 Macau, we are under one country, two systems, which is a policy that allows Macau and Hong Kong to have its own political, legal, and economic systems, capitalist systems, but also keeping basically, to a great extent, at least that was the aim, intact the systems before the respective handovers. So what does this mean? This means that there are insurances with regards to press freedom, and also different rights and guarantees enshrined in the basic law, which is the mini constitution. We had the liberalization of the gaming industry, very, very important. Macau became the world's #1 casino jurisdiction by 2006, 2007, surpassing Las Vegas. So this was a very important factor in terms of the the economy, the growth, and also allowing for revenue for the media, obviously. We had, in terms of international cooperation, the Forum for Cooperation between China and Portuguese-speaking countries. Increase in government support. José Miguel was talking about a very peculiar situation, idiosyncratic, I would say, which is the fact that Macau's Portuguese and Chinese language news media, newspapers, as long as they are at least weekly and are published for 5 years non-stop, they are eligible for a subsidy from the government, which has played an important role. But that's not only the case. There are other, government advertisement campaigns primarily towards news media or newspapers in Portuguese and Chinese. Why? Because these are official languages of the Macau special administrative region. Then with the liberalization of the gaming industry, we had a lot of new blood, a lot of people coming to Macau, professionals, and Chinese language, English language publications were launched. So we had also bilingual media outlets, and there was a diversification of the landscape. Today, we can say that Macau has arguably the highest media density in the world, perhaps. Why am I saying this? Take note of this. Daily newspapers, 14 in Chinese, 3 in Portuguese, 2 in English. They're print Monday to Friday. Then we also have free-to-air TV stations, the public broadcaster, weeklies, monthly magazines, quarterly, and of course, new media, native, digital, social media outlets, etc., for a population of only 686,000 inhabitants. So this is just a glimpse. These are some of the newspapers. So our market, it is still, compared to other markets elsewhere in the world, rather traditional in the sense that print newspapers still play a key role in a way. But of course, things are changing pretty fast. So here you can see some Portuguese language newspapers, daily newspapers, also weekly newspapers, including O Clarim, which is the one that is led by José Miguel. Also here in English, there's been an increase in demand for English language publications. Macau Business is the publication that I am leading. Okay, then what are the challenges? I think this is more interesting. So we have a situation where government subsidies, especially for Portuguese and Chinese newspapers, do play an important role. There's a level of reliance on public funding, not only subsidies, but also advertising campaigns, judicial ads, and announcements, etc. So, of course, this is certainly welcome because it allows us to have this pretty dense media landscape and diverse ecology and rather unique. But certainly that this is something that it is a challenge in terms of reliance. The same can be said to some extent to this has to do with the structure of Macau's economy. We have a major core industry, which is gaming and tourism. We are the only jurisdiction in the whole of China where casino gambling is legal, and we are #1 jurisdiction in the world in that respect. And of course, the gaming operators are very important players in terms of financing of advertisement, sponsored features, etc., for the media. So the traditional business model is certainly under pressure. We got competition we've always had from Hong Kong, but more and more also from mainland China. We were talking about how sophisticated we can see how sophisticated mainland Chinese media groups have become. Give an example, just across the border in Guangdong province, we have the largest media group, which is Nanfang Group, Southern Group, and the development that we'll be witnessing, diversity and the engagement is quite impressive over these past few years. So we have shortage of skilled human resources. This is another challenge for operation. Also, when I'm also teaching at local universities, and I can tell you that very, very few students want to be journalists or work in news media. When I talk about media, allow me to, I'd say, primarily focus on news media. So, of course, if you have a broader approach, maybe the landscape and the outlook may be a bit different. Other issues, of course, the size of the market. So going abroad and being able to tap into other markets is really important. Of course, when it comes to the mainland market, there are some challenges arising from certainly when it comes to effectively operate under a different system, and when it comes to licensing of media, news media companies and publications here in Macau is pretty easy to do it. in that respect. Also, for some media outlets, we still have the firewall. So depends. I'm talking about the websites of our media outlets. Some go through the firewall, others fail to go through the firewall. Of course, many people now use VPNs, etc. But certainly, this would be something that would be delighted to see overcome. Certainly, there's been a talk about actually doing that in the special economic zones of mainland China on a trial basis.
Okay, we can move to Amelie. Amelie, please, can you share with us your perspective, the mainland perspective, main transformations in China, and the impact in the social and economic, and impact in the media industry and creative industry?
So,
Amelie?
Hi, can hear
Yeah.
me? It's good.
Yeah.
So I think now for my computer, it's not convenient to with the PPT, but I could have some talk about the China's recently what happened. For example, for the DeepSeek, what the infant reaction from China different from the reaction comparing with the world.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, and then recently we talk about a lot of the DeepSeek, but for Chinese, I think not many people will feel surprised because I remember since my time, since the 1980s something, I think from China, they start to have a recovery of the Gaokao. It means they have the entrance to go to the university. So they start to have the very strong slogan. We didn't say that it's a slogan, but it is some saying to influence the students to study the science and the technology. That's what I say. So still have a strong pool, producing a large pool of a solid engineering and technological talent in China. For nowadays, I think for the DeepSeek today, I think just for the beginning. But later, I think that will encourage more students, more young people to devote to the AI field.
Okay.
So when we say from, I would like to explain a little bit from the several aspects. So, for example, we mentioned China have changed. The major change taking place in Chinese media and their impact on the world. The major change occurring in Chinese media and their impact on the world. Chinese media is undergoing profound change, which not only affect the political, economic, and cultural landscape within China, but also have a far-reaching impact on the global media ecosystem, international public opinion, and the operations of multinational corporations. Here are some key changes and their global implication. I would like to say about the 5 small affairs here. First one, the digital transformation of media. Chinese media is rapidly transforming from traditional print and broadcast television to digital and internet-based platforms. In recent years, internet technology giants like Tencent, Alibaba, and ByteDance have risen to prominence in digital content, social platforms, short videos, and live streaming. This has led to a major shift in China's media landscape. For example, short video platforms like Douyin, they call it TikTok, and WeChat, we have not only changed the way Chinese people consume entertainment and information, but have also attracted global attention, creating a transnational content distribution network. The second one is the increased government regulation. The Chinese government have strengthened its control and regulation over media, especially in the realm of the internet and social media platforms. In recent years, the government has enforced a variety of laws and policies to tighten media content censorship, particularly in cyberspace, with initiatives like the Clean Up the Internet campaign, which limits the freedom of content in areas like entertainment, news, and education. China has also intensified its scrutiny of foreign media and international news content, especially when it comes to sensitive political, historical, and social issues. The third one, local limitation and internationalization of media content. Chinese media is increasingly focusing on both localization and internationalization. Many Chinese films, television shows, and news programs are being adapted and translated for international audience, making efforts to enter overseas markets. The Chinese government and corporations are also promoting the international spread of Chinese culture and media content through initiatives like the Belt and Road. For instance, the Chinese film The Battle at Lake Changjin achieved significant success in international markets and had a major global impact. Fourth one is the rise of internet giants. China's internet companies such as Tencent, Alibaba, and ByteDance have emerged as major players in the media sector, marking a structural shift in China's media industry. These companies not only dominate the domestic market, but also have a significant global reach. For example, ByteDance's global success with TikTok has made it one of the most valuable internet companies worldwide. Tencent, through its social platform WeChat, video platform Tencent Video, and its investments in the gaming industry, has reshaped the media consumption landscape in both China and globally. The last one, the fifth, integration of media with national ideology. Another notable feature of Chinese media is its close integration with the national ideology. Traditional media in China, especially state-run outlets like CCTV and Xinhua News Agency, play an important role in spreading socialist core values, supporting party policies, and promoting the national image. With the rise of new media, social platforms, and video websites have also become tools for the government to propagate political ideologies and national narratives. So in generalize, I would say, because China now still is a government, it still lacks confidence to open all fields by media. I believe in the future, with the economic increase, with the power of the political, have a more confidence to open more to the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Amélie, to give us your perspective. Now, I think we can open the discussion to the audience. What do you think, Ellie?
Let me break the ice and prime the pump here for discussion. We had very, very useful and important conversations, different perspectives. Let me kind of share with you some statistics that I saw and then kind of go to the question, which is that it's called self-media in China, and it has now been started to be regulated much more tightly. Self-media are kind of independent news sources that kind of are hosted, located on things like WeChat and Weibo, and the Chinese equivalent of TikTok. And 80% in a survey, 80% of people surveyed said that that is their main source of news. 80%, whereas only 6.1% said it's television, and only 0.7% said it's print media. In other words, the audience has really migrated considerably away from these traditional media, and so maybe we're talking about the wrong subject, meaning kind of the wrong media, that people essentially consider these traditional media to be, kind of like yesterday's media, and so they're kind of dying slowly. And the government has now apparently been regulating those much more tightly than before. Similarly, the Chinese development in recent years that I've seen is one where the word is called convergence development, which is an encouragement of media to broadcasters and print media and internet media to leave their silo and become converged in both on the national level as well as on the local and the regional level. And so that is an attempt in some ways to create on local and regional and national levels media conglomerates that are much more vertically and horizontally integrated than before. So these are the two trends. On the official level, a encouragement of convergence to larger entities, but on the real audience level, a much greater fragmentation towards self-media. And I wonder if you can comment on those two developments.
Thank you, Ali. Now I think we can open the discussion. If someone wants to do some questions, comment, of course, short to for other people as opportunities. So please go ahead. I know that there are some people in the audience with that would like to do some questions.
We cannot hear you, Jose Carlos.
How about now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. This is a fascinating, development, which is centrifugal on the one hand, centripetal on the other hand. I mean, you can also see an increased level of sophistication by the party and by the governments, even at the local level, in terms of engaging and involving KOLs and influencers to convey certain messages. I mean, you were talking about the issue of soft power, and of course media as a tool of soft power. You can see this is another very interesting. We've all been witnessing this over the years in platforms, social media platforms such as X or Facebook. Or others, which actually are not available inside the firewall, but they are widely used by state media, provincial level media, etc., and also you can see the approach, I think, is being recalibrated. I mean, if I may introduce a bit of more of a political underpinning here, remember we've witnessed the outcome of the so-called wolf warrior diplomacy narrative, right, in terms of the public communication of authorities. We have seen that is actually something that is of the past. Nowadays is more of a certain period at the height of the previous wave of the trade war and also the pandemic and all of the geopolitical tensions. Do you see now a different approach, which is also reflected in the key, I would say, talking points, so to say, that you can see these people, these influencers or KOLs who some of them are openly affiliated with those media, others are loosely, or even they have their own platforms of self-media, and then because of their perspective or convenience, they align themselves in that more of a grander narrative. But I guess there's probably a bit of soul searching in terms of the best way to go forward with regards to being more compelling, and also to be able to talk about the issues, because otherwise it boils down to the issue, especially if you're talking about reaching out to a wider audience to tell the story. There's a lot of focus on telling well the story, right? Yes, I guess Emily was talking about, there was a period, we can all remember the speech by Secretary General and President Xi Jinping in 2016 about the media, and being especially the media that is affiliated with a party or sponsored by a party or government to be surnamed party. That was something that made the headlines back then. Nowadays, perhaps the situation is again a bit more nuanced.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, José Carlos. I think we can move to some questions. I received some questions here. For example, what do you think about the Western boycott resistance of Chinese media? Well, this one question. If someone want to reply, it will be nice. And there is also a question to Amelie about the type of media that has been very popular in mainland China is video games, especially with Generation Z. The Chinese government has begun regulating this segment of the media industry, etc. So, can you give some comments, Amelie, about that question, and of course the other question, all the speakers can reply, of course. Hello?
Paul, if you want, I can
Okay, please go ahead.
say something. About I will start to focus on what Hallie said, and also this question that Louisa Ha did. I want to tell you that last year on September, I went to Shanghai and I participate on formation related to China, and it was the first time I knew about this red note. Now people are talking about red note because what happened with TikTok and what is happening with TikTok. And it's funny because I just heard it about 3 or 4 months ago, and now 4 months later everybody is talking about this red note. And this afternoon I was talking with José Carlos Matias, and I told him nowadays it's very curious because if you analyze this red note and other apps, you will see that you have here a cocktail of things. With these apps you can read news from traditional media and very accurate sources, but you also have information as like comes from what we call the citizen reporters, and you don't know if they are true or they're fake news. You also can pay, you can transfer money with these applications. You can also produce and edit and broadcast your videos. So this is a cocktail of things, and where we don't know where the media activity ends and other activities starts with, and we are talking about the same tool for all these areas, all these sectors. And what I think is that now Luis is saying they are make this boycott, but the question is, these apps, they are being created in China for 1 billion citizens. So they are just profitable with the Chinese citizens. Okay, they don't need the consumers abroad to be profitable. They just need to be in China, and because they have advertising and so on, so the revenue comes inside China. The question of being implemented abroad is only a question of what Emily said, and José Carlos Matias, is a question of soft power and to spread the Chinese culture and the Chinese ideology, and it's that is soft power. So these apps are profitable just with the Chinese internal market, and then they are also used to spread the Chinese ideas and
Thank you. Thank you. Emily, do you want to add any comment?
No.
No,
Go ahead.
you said Amelie.
Oh,
Emily, do you want to add any comment? Okay. So in the audience, we have other good people. I challenge John Pavlik to do a comment if he want, of course. John, are you here? John?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, okay, good, nice. Nice to see you. Good surprise to see you here. Do you want to do some comments?
Well, I particularly interested in following up a bit on what Ellie was asking, and I'm interested in knowing especially how or what role journalism is looking to utilize DeepSeek or other generative AI in the journalism that's being produced in China, whether it's by government controlled media, professional media, or sort of any non-mainstream journalists, even stealth journalists.
Okay, thank you, John. We have other John, but in this case, João Palmeiro. João, that he was a Portuguese Press Association and he was president of the Google Fund in Europe. I challenge João Palmeiro to do a comment or question.
Well, João Paulo, and hello to everybody. I would like very much to have seen Emily, but she's frozen because I've been working with her on a resume. Well, what strikes me more when we have this discussion is that it seems that we have also globalized our ideas, our philosophical oaths, and our objectives. Because looking from Europe to China, or looking from the United States to China, it's necessarily different. And this is something that I always thought that our friends from Macau would have this role to enlighten us a little bit how this merge of culture, of looking to a more and more global world, that is coming every day more local when we are discussing journalism. not when we are discussing information. That's another thing. But when we discuss journalists, it's like if the world is coming more and more local. So I would like very much if José Carlos or José Miguel, from such a small territory, with such a big diversity of media, could bring some light to us about what is going really there.
Okay, thank you. José Carlos, please.
I can, yeah. Hello, hi, João. Very nice to see you again. Please come to Macau. We had some great gatherings a few years ago, and good exchanges. I mean, yes, I mean, what we have here in Macau, in terms of the media or of our social environment, of peaceful coexistence over the centuries, and the East meets West. Of course, some people may look at this as more of a bit of a mantra, but you can see that when we are here. And actually, Paulo was recently there. Notwithstanding the transformations, notwithstanding the hold on a second. Oh, notwithstanding the transformations and also the externalities. I mean, certainly, I mean, what happened in Hong Kong and the geopolitical issues that surrounded us over the past few years, but we still have a great deal of diversity, and now the next step, Macau. Macau celebrated its 25th anniversary just in late 2024 after the handover, and we are halfway through at least the 50-year period. Let's see what happens beyond 2049. It may be an extension of the arrangement, but the point is that the trend is towards integration in the Greater Bay Area. Greater Bay Area is composed of 9 cities in Guangdong province plus the 2 SARs. So it goes like this. I mean, we also have here next to Macau as a cooperation zone of Hangqin, which is like a test ground for deeper integration. So as we move forward, we will be more and more interacted and exposed and hopefully operating, because there's also steps forward in terms of mobility in the wider region, in the Greater Bay Area, in Guangdong. So I can tell you that we already been having some cooperation with media groups from Guangzhou, from Zhuhai, from Shenzhen. So I mean, when I say we, several of our media organizations there's been visits and exchange of contents and all of that. So it is something that will be quite interesting to see also how this regional integration will impact the development of the media industry. Of course, there's an issue of competition, but again, I mean, but in terms of especially for the media outlets published in Portuguese and in English, I mean, what we provide here, our tradition of journalism, because we're talking about I'm originally a journalist. I always look at news media and I always look at journalism as a public good, regardless of being provided by a private or public entity. So I would say values, I mean, if you may say. So it will be quite interesting to see how this evolves. And there's an issue, of course, of potential erosion of distinctive features that we've got here. There are issues related to legislative developments that we've seen, especially in Hong Kong with the National Security Act. But here in Macau, we still have an environment that is substantially, though similar, but also different from that we've seen in Hong Kong, especially in recent years. So will there be a pathway for, and also it also will depend to a great extent on, certainly on the mainland China and the fast-paced developments that we are witnessing there. I was pointing out something about ownership structure because I think just a final point is important.
José, sorry, can you conclude?
Sorry,
Because
yeah.
we don't have much time, and I'd like to.
Oh yes, you're right. Only
provide
6 minutes.
for one more
Okay,
question.
that's gonna be for the
And
next
then,
time.
and
Sorry.
then Eleanor will close the session. Okay.
Certainly. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you want to conclude any idea?
No, I'm just saying
Okay.
that, you know, we look forward to future
Amelie,
exchanges
do you
and
want to?
see where we go from here.
Okay. Amelie, do you want to add any comment? No? Okay. So there is there is someone in the audience that want to do any question? No? There's no questions? Okay. So this seminar, the duration is 1 hour. In this case, I think I will pass to Eleanor to do a final comment and conclude the session.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Emily and Jose, Miguel, and Jose Carlos. You covered a lot of material from a small Macau to a huge, almost half a continent, 1.5 billion people, enormous. We did not get yet into in a way, the expansion of Chinese media into outside of the high-tech field, but in a more journalistic field. For example, in Africa, where there are kind of significant development efforts, both of bringing in Chinese experts and investment, but also bringing out and training journalists. So China clearly is on the way to want to become a media superpower. And these are very interesting and important things. We didn't really get into the management issue yet, and the investment issues, and the market issues of stock markets, and the business models of the media, from advertising-based or subsidized-based to subscription and other questions. But I find this kind of a really important opening of our focus, and because the typical focus among media scholars is more North America and Western Europe, by the nature of the presence of researchers looking at their home markets and the development. And now China is clearly in that league and important. And being in Macau gives you this wonderful window into the Chinese market, because you're right there, but you're not quite of it and not quite controlled by it in the same way as people might be otherwise. So thank you very much, our speaker, and thank you very much, Paulo, for organizing it. Thank you very much for Jason for managing and holding this together. Jason, do you have any announcement about next month's session?
Yes, we do have a speaker for that. Hold on 1 second and I'll pull that up. Yeah, so we are going to have a speaker from Germany who is Dr. Helge Faust, the editor-in-chief of ARD's nightly news show, and I cannot pronounce this to save my life, so I won't try to. And he will be speaking about media in Germany and about news journalism in Germany in particular. So
ARD is the primary public broadcaster. It's a federation of sub broadcasters, regional broadcasters, and it's by far the most important media organizations, probably for political discourse in Germany.
And we'll be sending out an announcement about that in a few weeks.
Okay, thank you very much, Shelley, to give us this opportunity, and thanks to José Carlos, thanks José Encarnação, thanks Emily, and of course, thanks to many friends that are in the audience, and thanks for the question or for the and for this discussion. So see you soon, and see you in the next time. And I hope this session we had a very good discussion. Of course, there are some specificities in China, but I think we covered the main topics about media system of China and challenge, and the Macau as part of that system. So thank you again, and we will see you soon. Okay, thank you very much.